Do you know what the real difference is between a mature woman who wins over a younger man and one whom he sees only as a mother figure? It's not what you think. It's not about age. It's not about looks. It's not about money. It's something more subtle, something most women get wrong without even realizing it. If you've ever felt drawn to a younger man and noticed that the energy shifts the moment he learns your age, or if you've been in an awkward situation where you felt the need to justify yourself or make up for something, this video will completely change your perspective. Because what I am about to reveal goes against everything you've ever been told about relationships with a significant age gap. After observing hundreds of cases and analyzing what truly works, I discovered that women who successfully build these relationships do the exact opposite of what is commonly advised. And the difference is so clear that once you watch this video to the end, you'll know exactly why some attempts succeed while others turn into uncomfortable memories you'd rather forget. The truth is that there's a very specific behavioral pattern that repels younger men. And the issue isn't age, it's the invisible messages that many women unconsciously send, messages that scream insecurity, the need for approval, or a desperate desire to prove something. But before you assume this is just another superficial tip on how to look younger or act a certain way, let me share something I've learned from observing women who truly thrive in these kinds of relationships. They don't compete with youth. They offer something completely different, something a young woman simply cannot give. Imagine for a moment that you're a 45-year-old woman divorced with grown children who finally has time for herself. You meet a 32-year-old man at a social event. You feel instant chemistry, but as soon as the conversation turns personal, something changes. He remains polite, but the initial spark seems to fade. What happened? In most cases, it's not the age difference that changes the dynamic, but how the woman reacts once she becomes aware of it. She might start making self-deprecating jokes about her age, or begin treating him differently, protectively, maternally. Or maybe she shifts into impress mode and won't stop talking about her achievements and stability. Do you know what's the first thing a mature woman unconsciously does wrong when she likes a younger man? She becomes his caretaker. She starts treating him like a son, offering unsolicited advice, protecting him from situations he can handle himself, being overly helpful, or worrying about things that don't matter to him at all. Here's what no one tells you. When you do that, you awaken his instinct to be a son, not a lover. A younger man who seeks a relationship with a mature woman isn't looking for another mother. He already has one. He's looking for an equal partner, someone with whom he can have an adult relationship, full of depth and intensity. Now imagine that you're him. Would you be attracted to someone who constantly treats you like you're helpless, like you need care and protection? Attraction grows from mutual admiration, respect, and the feeling that you are equals, not from having a mentor or a guardian. Let me tell you the story of Maria, a 50-year-old woman I met some time ago. She had been married for 25 years, divorced 2 years earlier, and started dating again. She met David, a 35-year-old man, and everything started off great. But gradually, she began doing things that sabotaged the relationship. Whenever David mentioned a problem at work, she immediately assumed the role of advisor. When he wanted to make a spontaneous decision, she would explain why he should reconsider. Every time he showed concern, she had the perfect answer from her life experience. What Maria didn't understand was that David wasn't looking for a life coach, he was looking for a partner. And it's even more damaging when a woman tries to control the entire relationship from the start. That happens when she believes her life experience gives her the right to manage the relationship dynamic, to predict his every move, constantly offer advice, or try to shape him to her liking. She doesn't realize that this kills all spontaneity and mystery, two key ingredients of attraction. A younger man is drawn to energy, unpredictability, the excitement of discovering something new. And when you already have everything under control and mapped out, where is the space for him to feel like the main character in your story together? Imagine that every time he suggests something, you already know how it will end. Every time he wants to try something new, you already have the answer. Every time he wants to take a risk, you've already calculated the consequences. How would he feel? Probably like he's in a golden cage, comfortable, but without the freedom to grow. And here's something fascinating. Many mature women make a mistake because they feel uncomfortable about their age. When he asks how old they are, they avoid answering, joke nervously, change the subject, or make negative comments about themselves. Do you know what message that sends? That their age is a problem, that it's something to be ashamed of. But the woman who responds naturally and confidently, who doesn't apologize for her lived years, who can even speak of her experience with elegance, instantly becomes more desirable because she shows she is comfortable in her own skin, and that comfort is magnetic. I remember a situation a client once shared with me. She was on a date with a younger man, and when he asked her age, she responded with a smile. "I'm 43 years old, and every one of those years has taught me something valuable." She didn't make excuses, didn't nervously joke, didn't try to change the subject. She simply stated her reality with grace. He was fascinated, not by her age, but by the confidence with which she owned it. Now let me tell you about another common mistake I see all the time, the obsession with looking younger. Don't get me wrong, it's absolutely fine to take care of yourself, to invest in your appearance, to stay in shape. The problem arises when it comes from a place of desperation, when it becomes a frantic attempt to compete with 20-year-olds on their own turf. Do you know what happens when a younger man senses that you're trying to be something you're not? He loses interest instantly. Because what attracted him to you in the first place wasn't your ability to mimic someone younger, but precisely those qualities that come with maturity: confidence, presence, depth. A younger man seeking a mature woman isn't looking for a rejuvenated version of his peers. If he wanted that, he would simply stay with someone his own age. What he's looking for is something different, something only you can offer. Let me tell you about Carmen, a 48-year-old woman who spent thousands of euros on cosmetic treatments to look younger. She got Botox, fillers, expensive facials, and bought clothes that 20-year-old women might wear. When she met Andres, a 34-year-old man, she was convinced that her new look would win him over. But something strange happened. Andres was polite but distant. Later, when Carmen reflected on the situation, she realized she had lost her authenticity in the process. She was so worried about appearing young that she forgot to be herself. Her personality, her natural energy, her genuine presence had all been buried beneath a mask of artificial youth. Here's something many women don't understand. Trying to impress him with professional success or financial stability can backfire. Yes, it's great that you're successful, independent, that you've built something solid in your life. But when you make that the center of your presentation, when you constantly talk about your career, your properties, your travels, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Attraction isn't built on resumes, it's built on emotional connection. On that feeling that life becomes more interesting with this person. Your accomplishments may earn respect, but not necessarily desire. Think about it from his perspective. If every conversation turns into a display of your professional success, how is he going to feel? Probably like he's in a job interview, not a romantic date. And if you constantly emphasize your financial stability, what message are you sending him? That your value lies in what you have, not in who you are. Do you know one of the most subtle yet destructive mistakes? Excessive availability. Replying to messages at any hour, cancelling your plans just to see him, always being free when he is, constantly complimenting him, showing that your world revolves around his attention. This may seem like love or genuine interest, but what he perceives is lack. And lack is never attractive, no matter how old you are. The woman who keeps her own rhythm, who has her own interests, who is available but not desperate, who chooses to be there instead of needing to be there, that woman inspires both respect and desire. Imagine if every time he texts you, you respond instantly. Every time he suggests something, you agree without a thought. Every time He mentions anything, you turn it into praise. How is he going to feel? Probably overwhelmed, and honestly a little bored, because where's the challenge? Where's the mystery? Where's the sense that he's winning over someone truly special? But there's something even more subtle that I want you to understand. Many mature women fall into the trap of excessive seriousness. They believe that in order to be respected, they must always be rational, formal, and in control. And in the process, they completely suppress their sensual and playful side. Do you know what a younger man is looking for in a mature woman? He's not looking for another dose of seriousness and responsibility. He already has that in his work and family life. He's looking for someone who can laugh, who can be spontaneous, who has vibrant energy, who knows how to have fun, but with the depth and confidence that only come with age. It's that combination of vitality and maturity that's irresistible. It's not about being youthful, it's about being vibrant with wisdom. Let me tell you about Patricia, a 51-year-old woman who had developed an extremely serious personality after her divorce. She believed that in order to be respected professionally and as a single mother, she needed to project an image of total control. When she met Roberto, a 36-year-old man, she maintained that same seriousness in all their interactions. The first dates were polite, but cold. Patricia talked about important topics, gave intelligent opinions, and presented herself as a responsible and mature woman. But Roberto felt like he was in a business meeting, not on a romantic date. There was no laughter, no spontaneity, no spark that makes two people feel alive together. And here comes something I find crucial. The game of forced indifference. Some women believe they must pretend not to care, act as if he doesn't matter, maintain artificial emotional distance to avoid seeming needy. This is a huge mistake, because when you fake something, it always shows, and what he perceives is not mystery or independence, but coldness or arrogance. True maturity lies in being able to show genuine interest without falling into desperation, in being able to express emotions without manipulation, in being authentic without being overwhelming. When a mature woman pretends to be indifferent, she denies one of her greatest strengths, her ability to connect emotionally in a deep and authentic way. Young men who are often used to superficial interactions with women their own age find this emotional depth incredibly attractive. When it's genuine, now let me tell you the root of all these mistakes. Because once you understand this, everything else will make sense. Most mature women approach these situations believing that their age is a disadvantage they must compensate for. This belief drives them to behave in ways that betray their true nature. They become anxious to prove they are worthy, controlling out of fear of losing his interest, or submissive because they believe they must be grateful for the attention they receive. But here is the truth that changes everything. Your age is not a disadvantage. It's a difference. And differences can be incredibly attractive when you embrace them instead of fighting against them. A younger man who is genuinely attracted to a mature woman isn't looking for her to compensate for anything. He's looking for exactly what she is, a woman with experience, presence, depth, and a perspective on life he doesn't yet have. Think about it from a different perspective. What can a mature woman offer a younger man that a woman his own age cannot? First, a life perspective that only comes with experience. Second, emotional security that develops over time. Third, a freedom to be herself, something younger women, still in the process of self-discovery, often lack. But more importantly, a mature woman who has lived, who has faced challenges, who has overcome obstacles and learned from her mistakes, carries an emotional depth that can be incredibly seductive. It's not about years on a calendar, it's about a life consciously lived. Do you know the secret of women who succeed in these dynamics? They don't try to seduce. They simply share who they are. They don't fight their nature. They celebrate it. They don't apologize for their experience. They use it as a strength. When a woman stops trying to impress and simply allows herself to be authentic, when she stops competing with youth and offers something entirely different, when she fully accepts herself and acts from that place of self-acceptance, that's when she becomes truly irresistible. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a 46-year-old woman who had gone through a difficult divorce and raised 2 children on her own. When she met Marcos, a 33-year-old man, she didn't try to hide her story, didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. She simply shared her life as it was. She spoke of the difficult nights raising her children, of the lessons she had learned about resilience, of how she rebuilt her life after the divorce. She didn't do it to gain sympathy, it was simply a natural part of sharing who she was. And Marcos was captivated, not by the dramatic details, but by the strength and wisdom Eleanor had developed. Because what a young man looks for in a mature woman is not an improved version of what he already knows. It's something entirely new. He looks for someone with real presence, someone who doesn't need external validation to feel worthy, someone who can stand in her own energy without apologizing for it. Think of it this way: when you have to prove that you are desirable, you lose your magnetism. True attraction arises when someone sees your value without you having to constantly point it out. And here is something beautiful I want you to understand. A woman who respects herself, who takes care of herself out of self-love and not desperation, who shows herself without fear because she knows who she is, that woman is magnetic, no matter her age, because she radiates something that cannot be faked. Authenticity. That is the rarest thing in the world of modern relationships. Everyone is trying to be what they think the other wants to see. But when someone meets a person who is simply who they are, without apologies or pretenses, it creates an instant connection. Imagine you're at a social gathering and you meet someone who isn't trying to impress anyone, who isn't putting on a show, who isn't pretending, who isn't trying to be more or less than they are. They're simply being authentically themselves. How does that person make you feel? Probably relaxed, comfortable, genuinely intrigued. Do you know the greatest irony in all of this? The women who are most successful with younger men are the ones who try the least. They are so busy living their own lives fully that they naturally become attractive to all kinds of men, including younger ones. They're not looking to fill something they're missing. They're sharing from a place of wholeness. They're not trying to fill a void. They're offering from abundance. And that difference is instantly felt. When a mature woman is in her own energy, when she has made peace with her past, when she's excited about her present and optimistic about her future, that energy is contagious. Young men, often full of doubts and insecurities about their own lives, are naturally drawn to that sense of certainty. But let me be clear about something. This doesn't mean you should become a mentor or a spiritual guide. It means your presence itself is inspiring, not because you're trying to inspire, but because you're living an inspired life. When you understand that your age is a trait, not a flaw, when you stop seeing your experience as a burden and start seeing it as something that sets you apart, when you realize you don't need to compete, but rather offer something unique, that's when everything changes. Because the truth is, you have something a 20-year-old doesn't. Perspective. You have clarity about what you want and what you don't. You have the emotional security that comes from having faced and overcome challenges. You have the calm of someone who no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. Think of it this way. A young woman may be beautiful, fun, intelligent. But can she offer the depth of someone who has truly lived? Can she provide the emotional steadiness of someone who has learned how to navigate life's storms? Can she give the freedom of someone who is no longer trying to find herself? And all of that, when you embrace it fully, is incredibly seductive. The young man who feels drawn to you is not looking for a mother. He's not looking for a mentor. He's not looking for a teenager in disguise. He's looking for a woman with presence, with truth, a woman who doesn't need external validation to know she's desirable. He's looking for someone who can teach him things about life, not from a place of superiority, but from shared experience. Someone who can show him emotional depths he hasn't yet explored, not because she's older, but because she has lived more intensely. Let me tell you about Adriana, a 52-year-old woman who had traveled the world, built a successful career, raised her children, and overcome a serious illness. When she met Julian, a 35-year-old man, she didn't tell him all this to impress him. She simply was who she was, a woman who had lived fully. Julian was fascinated, not by the details of her life, but by the way Adriana inhabited her own existence. There was a calmness in her, a confidence that didn't stem from arrogance, but from self-acceptance. When she spoke, he felt like he was in the presence of someone who truly knew herself. The key lies in understanding that it's not about age, it's about energy. It's not about years, it's about presence. It's not about accumulated experience, it's about integrated wisdom. When a woman understands this, when she stops fighting who she is and begins to celebrate it, when she realizes that her worth needs no justification, that's when she becomes that unforgettable woman. The woman everyone admires, the woman everyone wants to know better. Because at the end of the day, what truly attracts is not perfection, it's authenticity. Not youth, but vitality. Not inexperience, but the freshness of spirit combined with the depth of a life fully lived. And that, my dear, is something only you can offer. You don't need to apologize for it. You don't need to compensate for it. You don't need to hide it. You need to celebrate it, embrace it, and allow it to be the foundation of your natural magnetism. When a mature woman finally understands this, when she stops seeing her age as an obstacle and starts seeing it as her superpower, when she realizes that what she thought were flaws are actually her greatest assets, that's when everything changes, not just in her relationships, but in her whole life.